Previously on
Anyway, Max, how you
Chasing
doing today?
Trail.
Good. Thank you so much for having me back on, Teddy.
I don't know. Do we bury the lead here? Or do we just come out with it, Max?
I think we just come out with it. That the Park Service. Can I come out with it, or you want to do
Yeah,
it?
yeah. No, you go ahead. You tell them. You have the quote. You have the direct quotes. I didn't write anything down. I just have a
Yeah.
pencil here
So,
for
well,
show.
Michelino sent me this info. I don't know why he trusts me so much, but yeah, his legal team, they did a Freedom of Information Act request.
Chasing trail, kicking up dirt, sweating my eyes, but it don't hurt. Fast feet, loose rocks, send it full sail. Ain't no stopping, we chasing trail. Yeehaw!
Okay.
Couple penguins getting slippery down there in
Well,
Antarctica.
yes. I mean, it's mostly for research. But so one thing that I was gonna say is that this whole thing, this whole case with Michelino, it's actually looking really good for them now, which is insane
Yeah.
because I think when we first talked, the consensus was kind of like, oh man, like I think they're gonna get him. It seems like there's like this kangaroo court thing going on, and there's like but it seems like with this Freedom of Information Act request that they put out, and then got this stuff back, it's making these guys look real bad. And I
Yeah.
feel like if that judge comes out now at this point, and I don't know the ethical things behind this, if she watches the news or maybe her boss is like, hey, like you would be like really wise to be like mistrial or something.
Yeah.
Because I think that's kind of what has to happen now, because it just seems at this point that they was colluding to make an example of Michelino, and it almost seems, now I'm speculating here. This is just Teddy speculating. It
Sure.
almost seems that this prosecutor thought that they were going to win this and that she just wanted an easy win to put onto her resume. And I don't know if the judge was going to be complicit in this, but it seems like from the actions of the prosecutor, they was very eager to do that. And
Yeah.
it makes me think to myself, do these people have souls? Because Michelino is a person and going through this, and she, it seems, would just be happy to use him as just a, like, what, like this cannon fodder in her march to become, king shit of whatever lawyers do. I don't know. Where do they go? What do lawyers
Yeah.
try to do? What do
Well, I
they do?
think they
Attorney
want to be.
generals.
They want to become a judge or like just moving up the chain of command, getting a fatter paycheck and having more credentials and more authority, more power over other people within the government. I mean, the
Yeah, they had a
government's all about
picture.
power, and
They had a
everybody wants to
picture.
be a big fish. But yeah, we haven't talked since before the trial. I had the unfortunate privilege of attending the entire trial. Let me tell you, they make you sit in basically church pews. The general public has to sit in pews, and my back hurt more from sitting in that damn courtroom for a day and a half than it does after a week of hanging garage doors or doing a remodel on a house or crawling around under a truck. Actually working. And I was shocked by how many federal employees were at that courthouse for the most frivolous trial of the century. I shit you not, I couldn't get over it because I counted 16 of them in the courtroom. We had the judge and the prosecutor and her assistant, and the judge had a couple of friends just sitting below her. It's like the power structure, kind of the pyramid. You got the judge, you got these guys, then you got all the prosecutors, and you got Michelino's team over here. They had like 6 National Park Service employees all kitted out, wearing their bulletproof vests and their guns and their tasers and their batons, just really looking real authoritarian. They had a couple of U.S. Marshals there running the metal detector at the courthouse, and then a couple other people that were just kind of hanging out. They were obviously employees. So you got 16 employees in the courtroom. Another 2 or 3, they had the special prosecutor, Agent Carpenter, coming in via Zoom. They had the court reporter via Zoom, the prosecutor's assistant via Zoom. So there's like at least 19, maybe 20 federal employees getting paid to be there. Meanwhile, Michelino is paying to be there. He was lucky that his buddy Nick, his buddy Alex Rienzi is a lawyer and was working for free because he's got some skin in the game on this. And then the other
Oh yeah.
lawyer, who did a great job, the other defense lawyer did a great job, and he sounds like he was giving Michelino a pretty good deal. But they're all getting paid to be there. 20 federal employees getting paid to try to bend Michelino over, and he's already getting bent over just trying to fight it. Meanwhile, my poor ass sitting in the church pews in the back. At least Michelino got a comfortable chair, but I was sitting in a church pew, and my back was killing me.
Wow.
Yeah,
Wow. Yeah.
I'm the real victim here.
Yeah. Yeah. People don't think about those things, but the one thing that I do find funny about that whole thing is that they have all those national park people in there,
Yeah,
but the national park director, Mr. Frank Lambs, I'm calling him Lambs. I think it's better.
yeah,
He called all of them back and said, "No, you're not going." But the prosecutor went out and made sure that they came. Again, it's like this power trip thing,
yeah,
and like, and again, and now Michelino Michelino at this point, he's done with the place. Somebody had heard said, like, that people in Jackson, they just, they have bad attitudes and they smell like feet. I don't know if that's true, but that's what he said. And he moved to Salt Lake City. Yeah, he's done with
yeah.
them. Yeah,
Well, maybe he can
yeah.
join the Mormon Church and get right with Joseph Smith and get back on the right track. Stop
I'm gonna have to talk.
breaking.
I'm gonna have to talk to him about that 10% though, because I have a feeling like that's one of those things that's gonna catch him. So like I'll have him making sure that he's giving more money. But I think that I think state income tax in Utah may be zero, or they have like low taxes in Utah. I think it's one of those things that people likes about it.
Yeah.
So maybe he gets a break there. Maybe the government doesn't bend you over as much in Salt Lake City. But I think it's a good move for him. I think it's a good move. You get a fresh start. He could find another switchback to cut and see if he could get some trouble down there in the Wasatch.
Well, did he really cut a switchback, or did he utilize the old climbers
And,
trail,
and,
Eddie?
and I th- and I think that that's exactly the question, Max, is
Yeah,
because we've been seeing all these articles and we see testimony from some of these people, which brings me, get like talking about like being a cuck for the federal government. This Ryan Burke asshole who comes out and he writes an op-ed in
yeah,
the Jackson Hole Times is whatever news journal or something, and he
yeah,
writes this piece, and I read it, and I don't know this guy, but like for me, my first impression was I got jealousy right off the top. It was like oozing with this weird jealousy. And to his point, he said he made a comment, straight lied in the
yeah.
article, lied,
Yeah, I
literally
caught that
lied.
too.
You
I caught
caught
that
that with
too.
yeah. What
Yeah,
you probably know
how
better
they,
than I do.
well, I mean, he's saying that he's making it out like Michelino was like cutting switchbacks on the upper mountain and kicking rocks down on federal employees who are doing trail maintenance, but it was Labor Day. Federal employees ain't working on Labor Day.
Yeah, well, there's that, and there's the fact that I was looking at the map, and I was looking at what Ryan Burke was talking about, and the thing is I had a talk with Michelino. I called him. I said, "Hey, was you kicking rocks on people?" And he said, "No, I wasn't kicking rocks on people." I said, "Well, I did the math on it." I said, "And if Ryan Burke is telling the truth, and you kicked a rock on somebody, you should be a soccer player or like kick field goals in the NFL, because it would have meant that he would have had to kick a rock in like the eastward direction, like 200 yards or something
Yeah.
like that, which is pretty crazy."
Well, and what's funny is the upper mountain, it was pretty well established at the trial that they were only going after Michelino about the old climbers trail. Because once you get past the platforms, campsites there, it's a free for all to the summit of the mountain. Some of the
Yeah.
trails have been improved up there, but they're not on the maps. They're not, officially designated trails that you're required to stay on. And you're right, the way Michelino came down that gully doesn't go over the top of those trails.
No.
And
No.
well, what's funny is you go up there and I've climbed that mountain probably as many times as Michelino, probably 50 or 60, 70 times. I used to take friends up there all the time. I was bartending downtown Jackson, and there's a lot of my friends, they don't know how to climb, but they always wanted to climb the Grand Teton, and they can't afford to spend, $1,200, $1,500 to hire a guide. So I just take them up there. Just, and it was just a fun way to spend the day. But we be going up those upper trails to the upper mountain, and after climbing the thing 30, 40 times, I would still lose the trail up there because it's a
Yeah.
whole network of random climbers trails snaking around, and it's easy to get twisted up there. I would imagine, especially so if you're, at your VO max, sprinting up or down the thing, going for the fastest known time.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah. Yeah. Well, that's it. That was part of the whole thing with Michelino is that it took him so long to get that was because, it took him to forever to like figure out the exact way that he wanted to go, and he figured it out. He did it, and by all accounts he did it safely. But this guy comes out here and he's saying all these things. And my point earlier in the week was, why are we going in attacking a fellow person,
yeah,
nature lover, athlete, what have you? And it seems like it kind of made sense to me a little bit. I don't know if there's anything really deep to it, Max. I really don't. Like I think that sometimes people are just like shitty people. And I noticed though is that this Ryan Burke gentleman, he had a record at one point where it was this contrived thing where he climbed the Grand Teton 3 times in one day, which again is
yeah.
impressive. Yeah, that's
Very
cool.
impressive. Yeah,
Yeah, it's like it takes an athlete to do that. But you come out here now, and now you say, and now you see, now it's like sour grapes. You
yeah.
see, you seem like kind of like a big baby. You're
Well,
crying, and you're just like you're demanding an apology. Like go. How about you go fuck yourself? Because like the other part was you put these things in this article where you say that people made testimony to this. No, they did not. That
yeah.
was never part of it, and
Oh
you're
yeah,
lying to
that was the
people.
big lie. Is he said there was a member of the trail crew in the courtroom that testified that Michelino kicked rocks on him. That is not true. I was there in the courtroom. There was no trail crew member. They
Yeah,
had a
none.
couple of law enforcement agents for the park. They had this lady who's like she's a PhD, some sort of like cultural and sociological liaison or something in the park. But yeah, no trail crew workers testifying that Michelino almost brained him with a boulder. That's for
Well,
sure.
exactly. Because here's the thing is that you would think the prosecution would absolutely like this. They'd say, okay, yeah, you're cutting a trail, but we're also going after you for attempted murder,
Right.
because like he's going down there, he's just flinging boulders all over the place like a freaking crazy person.
Yeah.
I mean, I mean, for that I could understand. I could understand if he's up there like a wild man and he's just like, get out of my way. This is my mountain. And he's just like flinging rocks like some sort of freaking Greek god. I don't know if
Yeah.
Greek gods do rocks, but like if they did, it would be like that. But he's not doing this. And you go out there and you go and you lie about it. For what
Yeah.
purpose? I am not quite sure. And then this guy, he's supposed to be a therapist of some sort, which is absolutely hilarious because I was seeing the comments he was making online with people. He's getting in fights with people about it, trying to defend his opinion. And it's like
Yeah.
you can't defend yourself. You are on the wrong. You are siding with the wrong people here, and
Right.
history has shown that. Yeah, and just like we said just now, is the National Park Service came out the day before the trial and they said we do not support this case. Yet everybody's here saying that Michelino's a criminal, but the people that originally was talking about it says, "Nah, we'll forget about it. This is boring now."
Yeah.
And maybe
Well,
that's
the
I
bottom
don't know.
line is, if you check the Strava heat maps, all sorts of people use the old climbers trail. And if you
Yeah,
check the heat map up above the platforms, there's a crisscross pattern of people going every which way because there's no properly defined official trail up there. So,
exactly.
bottom line is, if Ryan Burke and anybody else who's talking smack on Michelino is going after him, it's only because Michelino got the fastest known time.
That's kind of what I'm thinking. I
Therefore,
think it's just
so
locals that are jealous.
hey, I know Ryan Burke. He's always been pleasant with me. I don't know him super well, but I think his fastest time up and down the Grand is like 3 hours 30 minutes. So
Yeah,
he's got good and he's a hell of a runner, but he's not world class like Mr. Sunseri.
yeah, not like Mr. Sunseri, and I've actually never even heard of Mr. Ryan Burke when it comes to running. And Teddy knows all the great runners in the sport. I follow all of them, all the great ones. We've had a few of them on this show actually. Max Garrett Corcoran, great runner.
Yeah.
Yeah, we have a Grant Barnett, great runner. Kylo Ricks, Holly Wright. The list goes on. It's crazy. But we actually have a very, very special guest that's going to be on the show coming
Who's
up
that?
here. Yeah, oh, I can't say it yet. It's so big. Teddy is, oh man, Teddy is so excited. It's like it's gonna be one of those ones, Max, where I'm interviewing this person and I'm not even gonna think it's real because it's a childhood hero of Teddy's.
Wow. Let me guess. It's a 300-pound Bahamian psychic medium channeling the ghost of Steve Prefontaine.
That's close. That's actually next week's episode. But but
Oh,
but
great.
yes. Yeah, no, thank you for the plug. That's the yeah.
Yeah. Sorry.
Yeah.
Sorry to
No.
spoil it.
No, it's okay. No, I think I no, I was gonna hint at it later. It's fine. It's okay. We'll break the news here, everybody. We're gonna have a psychic here, and we're gonna be Prefontaine will be on the show. It's gonna be great. I actually have a problem with the Prefontaine. The thing that I'll bring it up someday, maybe when we talk to his ghost, because I have a problem with all the runners copying the mustache.
Yeah.
It's a little bit too much on the nose. No pun intended. It's just
Right.
yeah.
I mean, Pre
Eh,
pulled that off, man.
he
Pre made
did.
that mustache look good.
Yeah, but a lot of these other guys, they're not. They
Right.
don't. No, yeah, no. They look like if they went to prison, they would be in a lot of trouble. Is like they had that kind of look. I don't
Yeah.
I don't I don't I don't want to say it because then we get demonetized and this podcast makes like a ton of money and we can't do that. We've already said a lot of things that the algorithms is going to pick up on, Max, because when you say federal government more than 3 times in a podcast, they're automatically listening. They're listening. They're listening right now. I can almost assure it. Teddy is definitely on a list.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You're definitely on a list, and I might be as well.
Yeah, you might be as well. You've been saying Alan Booze Hamilton's a lot. Booze Allen Hamilton's a lot. And you keep
It's funny.
you
Every
see
time I'm making a video talking about that, I'm like, man, every time I say Booz Allen Hamilton, I know that somebody at Booz Allen Hamilton is probably tuning into it because in addition to processing payments at the, national parks, national forests, they also work with the CIA, NSA, FBI, DOD, and, probably government agencies we don't even know about.
Oh yeah, and they'll probably come up with a new one again because again we was talking about the flags in Yosemite. They're probably going to have a whole nother agency that's dedicated just to flags. To have people placed in Zion, have people placed in the Badlands, making sure that there is no flag shenanigans going up anywhere. None.
Right.
I don't. And again, like I said, Teddy knows how to solve this problem. Again, we've talked about it. Again, it's simple solutions, but they don't want to. They don't want to pay attention to it.
Hand-to-hand
But
combat, and may the best man win.
yeah, I just feel like we're going the way of the Roman Empire anyway. I mean, we've been devaluing our currency for how long, But why
Entire
might as
life.
well bring back the gladiator fights.
Yeah. Well, I think the currency's been getting devalued since they went off of the silver standard, with the founding of the Federal Reserve in 1913. Then they went to the gold standard, got off the gold standard back when Nixon was in office with Bretton Woods. So once that happened, and, there's definitely no gold left in Fort Knox anymore, but the currency's not tied to it anyway. There's a good reason. You talk about devaluing the currency. It's like the reason that everything is so much more expensive than it was even in 2020 is because they printed all that damn money for the COVID pandemic.
Yeah, and the thing is that I didn't even get a lot of that money. I
I
like
got none.
I got none. I know I had friends that had businesses and they did the things with there was like some sort of special program and they got like hundreds of thousands of dollars that they never
Yeah.
paid back. Yeah. Yeah,
Yeah.
Teddy knows a lot of sketchy people. I still talk to him though, just in case you need something. If you need to get something done, it's good people. They're not good people. They're terrible people. But if you need something done, let me know.
Yeah. They got the money and the money talks.
The
Even though
money talks.
the money is worth less every year. Well, that's a funny thing. That the whole COVID thing is a good example because somebody who knows how the system works and is willing to participate in the system and is willing to take advantage of the system can make out like a bandit. That's the way it's
Yeah.
set up, you know?
I gotta look it up. I'm gonna write that down because I have a few notes here about the skimmers and stuff. But I'm also gonna look up stock. Does Booz Allen Hamilton have stocks?
Yeah, they do.
Oh, I'm gonna get some.
They're on the market. Yeah, you should. Booz Allen Hamilton, Palantir, their
Palantir.
stock is up in a big way.
Okay.
Tesla stock, this is not financial advice, by the way. Tesla
Oh no,
stock took a
not no.
big hit when Musk and Trump got in their fight. It went down like 17% in one day. And now it's
Wow.
on its way back up. So you know that's going to go back up in the
We
short
gotta
term. And then it's
get
probably
some
going
of
to
that.
crash again.
Okay.
But not financial advice. But yeah, Palantir is sketchy. And they're very similar to Booz Allen Hamilton, but on a, it's like the new Booz Allen Hamilton's kind of old school. Palantir is like a new school
Oh, okay.
federal contractor.
Nice. New school.
And their
New school
job is
versus
to
old
basically,
school.
they're creating a database of all American citizens. Not that, Facebook has already done that and all the algorithms have done that, but I think Palantir, I could be misspeaking here, but what I've been reading is Palantir is taking it to a whole nother level.
Well, I'm not gonna take your financial advice, but I'm gonna look into this.
Yeah.
Yeah. Teddy, like I said, Teddy's gotta feed the dogs, as they say. Teddy's gotta feed
Oh
the
yeah.
dogs. Yeah.
Yeah,
I-
that's how the system works, right? It's like
it's we're slaves to the system. I swear. I swear. It's like, there's a reason why Teddy rides a bike. I don't even really drive all that much. I just ride a bike a lot because because I don't want to have to do the registrations and the insurances and all these things. It's just too much. I can't even.
it
I
is
just
too
so
much.
I ride a bike. Yeah.
But yeah, I was so stoked. I think we talked about this in the last podcast, but I had a credit card that I was paying off. Finally got it all the way paid off. And the next goddamn day, I check it, just for that sense of accomplishment, like, yeah, that fucker's at zero. But no, my auto insurance had renewed, so there goes another $400-$500. And then in the mail that day, I got registration due on a couple vehicles that I own, so that's another $500 out the window. So right when I got to zero on that credit card, I get hit with another $1,000, and for what?
I don't know. That's like I keep saying. I just need to do like a crypto scam so I could just like get like like break free, and then I could really change things. And then I could be a big time politician. And like I'm gonna try not to sell out though. I'm gonna try to be like Mr. Smith Goes to Washington, but I'm gonna see it through. I'm gonna do it. But I have to scam people first because I don't feel like there's any way to make money otherwise. We'll try, because again, the podcast makes a lot of money, but the production value here is so huge that it just takes a lot of the budget. So it is
You're
what it
like
is.
Mr.
But
Beast. You
oh
spend
yeah,
500,000. You make 600,000 on an episode, but you spend 500,000 in production costs.
you know what? You got to put it back into the business. You got to
Yeah.
put it back into the business. I know lots about economics. I'm gonna probably do a podcast about it one of these days. But Max, we're running out of time here because Teddy's got to take a poop. But I was gonna ask you, is there anything else that you wanted to bring up before we ended this episode for the volume 2?
Well, I just think it was, after the trial, I was standing around outside, just a real brief, and it was very telling. It was interesting because it was a beautiful day. Everybody's happy that we're finally out of that courtroom. And Michelino and his whole posse, he had a lot of support from friends locally. We're all standing around shooting the bull and, talking about, let's go get some lunch and have a good time. And all the federal employees were kind of shuffling out of there and, by themselves, heads down, kind of looked like they were, I wouldn't say they looked ashamed, but, they were not, even though they were probably looking at having the rest of the day paid time off, I don't think they were really satisfied and happy with the experience. And as I was
Yeah.
standing there with the whole crew, we're chit-chatting, and Michelino's dad, Edward, came up to me. And he made a really good point, a couple good points. He said that the law is about the facts, and it seemed like the prosecutor was very emotional. She's really, like you were saying earlier, she was like really wrapped up in it, and really
Yeah.
it's like that she had no skin in the game aside from the professional status of winning a high profile, very frivolous, wasteful case in the media. And then the other point that Michelino's father made was that it's all about intent. And Michelino's intent that day was not to break the law. And it's, and even if you do something, with this whole over criminalization in the federal government thing going on, I think the reason that the deputy director of operations at the National Park Service told them to drop the case was because the crime, there was no crime really, and the punishment was so extreme. But more important than that is Michelino's intent was not to break the law. And if he was trying to break the law, he was doing a really shitty job of it because he was posting it on social media. Like those guys who are like, they'll steal a car and go do donuts in the middle of an intersection with their buddy standing on the hood, and then they post that to Instagram. That's basically what Michelino was doing, except he wasn't breaking the law.
Yeah, no, it was never an intent to break the law. It
Yeah.
was an only intent was to break a record, and he did,
And he did.
and he
And he
did,
did.
and he will be recognized for that. I'm sure when all of this dust settles, we could get back to normal, and yeah. Well, I'm hoping that. I'm hoping
Yeah.
that the next time that we talk, Max, that we'll have a resolution to this case. We're not going to fix everything just yet, but I think that being patient, bringing attention to it, that's all we could do. We
Yeah.
could hope for Michelino and that it gets better. And I think that again, I think this is just to to the people that was against Michelino in this whole thing. Just look at the facts. Go look at it. They're out there. Go read it. Stop looking at other people's opinions. The facts is there, and he's not a
Yeah.
bad guy. He's a husky dad.
Well, and I think it's important to note too, when I was going into the trial, I was really, I had seen the comments that people had made, Kelly Halpin, who got brought into the courtroom, she was subpoenaed, forced to testify by the prosecution because she was communicating with Michelino before and during and after the FKT. And she did not, from my perspective, not to put words in her mouth or anything, but she seemed like she might have regretted her previous stance. And I think she did a service to Michelino in the courtroom by referring to the trail as the old climbers trail instead of saying that he shortcutted a switchback, and by characterizing the prosecution's actions as extreme. So anybody else who's out there that has been cucking for the federal government or virtue signaling, or might, maybe they harbor a little jealousy towards Michelino, and that's okay because we can't all be
like that.
time record holders.
Yeah, he's pretty fast.
Yeah, we're not all built like Greek gods. The Daily Mail is not going to call all of us hunky.
Yeah.
But
I still think it should have been husky athlete. I thought that's what it said from the very beginning.
I got a husky athlete right here.
Yeah, there you go.
Yeah. But anyway, the point I'm trying to wrap up. I know you got to get going to an important engagement this evening with your toilet. But the point is, anybody that's, just because, it's okay to change your opinion. Like when I was a little kid, I thought that the U.S. military was the coolest thing in the world. I thought like, an A-10 Warthog plane flying through the jungles of Vietnam with those Gatling guns. Yeah, exactly. Like, just rip them to shreds. That's so cool.
Super cool.
But yeah, and it still is cool to an extent, but not
to an extent.
When you put a little more thought into it and think about the human cost of that, and the financial cost, the moral cost, what it does to society, better off to side with a guy like Michelino Sincere in the face of the bloated bureaucracy.
Yes.
Instead of just saying, please, daddy government, please make an example of him so we can, so you can send me to federal heaven for my 25 to 30 to 40% annual tithe.
Exactly. That's a good question. Is Ryan Burke getting tax breaks that we don't know about? Does he have a secret relationship with Donald Trump or maybe even Elon Musk? But now they've broken up. We'll see. Maybe we'll see. I don't know. I don't know. But we'll leave it on that speculation, everybody.
Yeah.
That's right. We're speculating here because if we can put op-eds out there, Teddy's going to put it out as a podcast, and you can hear it come from my voice, unlike a little coward with your little pens. Here it comes. You ready? Yeah, that's right. Ryan Burke is getting tax breaks from the man himself. Yep, personal tax breaks for attacking Michelino. This is a political hit job. Yeah, perhaps.
For all we know, there's
allegedly.
Allegedly. I mean, for all we know, there's so much money slushing around in this country. For all we know, there's a federal grant there could be a whole branch of the government that's devoted to taking down Michelino Sunseri, and they're paying these private contractors to slander him, just like the Forest Service is paying Booz Allen Hamilton to collect fees.
Freaking nailed it, allegedly.
Allegedly. You don't know. We don't know. There's a lot of shady shit going on in the world.
Well, next time we talk, Max, we're going to have a resolution to this thing. Michelino's going to be victorious. We're going to march down Washington Avenue or wherever the place is in Washington where they do the marches, and we're going to march there like the ladies with their vagina hats. And we're going to go there, but we're going to have different hats, maybe raccoon hats, I think, or huskies, husky hats. We are doing husky hats. We are marching on Washington, people. But until next time, this has been Teddy Tonelli. Thank you again, Max, for coming on. So appreciated. This has been Teddy Tonelli, a.k.a. Teddy the Tyrant. Until next time, everybody, Teddy out.
Chasing trail, kicking up dirt, sweating my eyes, but it don't hurt. Fast feet, loose rocks, send it full sail. Ain't no stopping, we chasing trail, yeah.